The coffee had gone cold in my hand, but I barely noticed. I sat in my truck across the street from the Riverside Inn, watching the second-floor window where the curtains glowed amber in the fading afternoon light. My wife Rebecca's car was parked 3 spots down from a silver Audi I'd seen too many times in our neighborhood lately. I'd been a Navy SEAL for 12 years before retiring to what I thought would be a quiet life. I'd learned to read situations, to notice details others missed, to trust my instincts. For 3 months, those instincts had been screaming that something was wrong. Rebecca's late nights at book club, her phone face down on every surface, the new lingerie I never saw her wear, at least not for me. The motel room door opened. Rebecca stepped out first, her blonde hair catching the parking lot lights, looking radiant in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. Then he emerged, tall, lean, expensive suit. He kissed her neck as she laughed, a sound that used to be mine alone. My hands remained steady on the steering wheel. In my SEAL days, I'd learned that emotion was the enemy of clarity. I felt the familiar calm settle over me, the same detachment that had kept me alive in Kandahar and Fallujah. I wasn't angry yet. I was observing, analyzing, planning. I recognized him now. Trevor Hawthorne. He owned 3 car dealerships in the county, his face plastered on billboards with that practice smile. Married, 2 kids. I'd seen his wife at community events, a kind woman named Patricia who volunteered at the Children's Hospital. They kissed again before separating to their cars. I waited, then followed Rebecca home, maintaining distance, using techniques I'd once used to tail targets through hostile cities. She beat me there by 15 minutes, enough time to shower and change into the yoga pants and old college sweatshirt she usually wore around the house. When I walked through the door, she was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with studied casualness. "Hey, babe," she called out, not looking up. "How was your day?" "Informative," I replied, setting my keys on the counter. Something in my tone made her glance up. Our eyes met, and I saw it, a flicker of fear quickly masked by false brightness. "Mine was boring," she said, returning to the cutting board. "Book club was cancelled, so I just ran errands." "You hungry?" "I'm making that stir-fry you like." The lie hung between us like gun smoke. I watched her hands move, remembering those same hands tangled in mine on our wedding day 8 years ago. She'd been a paralegal then, ambitious and sharp. I'd been freshly decorated, carrying invisible wounds I didn't know how to share. Maybe that's where we'd started losing each other. "Actually, I need to head back out," I said. "Forgot to pick something up." Relief washed over her features. "Oh, okay. I'll keep a plate warm." I walked back to my truck and drove to the gym where I still trained, needing to move, to think, to process. The heavy bag took my frustration for 90 minutes until my knuckles ached and sweat soaked through my shirt. By the time I returned home, Rebecca was asleep, or pretending to be. I stood in our bedroom doorway, watching her breathe, and made my decision. I wouldn't confront her yet. I needed more information. In operations, you never moved without complete intelligence. What I didn't know was that Trevor Hawthorne had already started planning something far more dangerous than an affair. 3 days later, I'd built a complete profile on Trevor Hawthorne. Old habits died hard, and intelligence gathering had been my specialty. His dealerships were successful but leveraged to the hilt. He'd been sued twice for fraud, settled both times. His marriage to Patricia was apparently loveless, separate bedrooms for the past 5 years according to what I'd overheard at the country club where I'd coincidentally played golf. More concerning were his connections to Vincent Costa, a local loan shark with ties to organized crime. Trevor owed money, a lot of it. My contacts from the old days had confirmed he was in deep, about $300,000, with Costa's patience wearing thin. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about my wife. Trevor needed money, and Rebecca came from wealth. Her trust fund was modest by some standards but substantial, enough to solve his problems. I was just the obstacle between him and financial salvation. The realization crystallized as I sat in my home office, reviewing bank statements. Rebecca had been slowly moving money from our joint accounts. Nothing dramatic, just $2,000 here, $3,000 there. Over 3 months, nearly $40,000 had disappeared. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca, working late. "Don't wait up." I pulled up the tracker I discreetly placed on her car. She wasn't at her office. She was at Trevor's estate on the north side of town, a sprawling property hidden behind iron gates and old-growth oaks. This time, I didn't follow. Instead, I made myself dinner, reviewed my surveillance notes, and waited. The truth would reveal itself. It always did. Around midnight, I heard her key in the lock. I was sitting in the dark living room, a position I'd learned in urban combat training, back to the wall, clear sight lines, controlling the space. Jesus! She jumped when she saw me. You scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? Couldn't sleep, I said calmly. How was work? Exhausting. She kicked off her heels, expensive new ones I hadn't seen before. The Morgan Sun case is killing me. I'm going to bed. Rebecca. My voice stopped her at the stairs. I know you're lying. She turned slowly, her face pale in the moonlight filtering through the windows. What? I know about Trevor. I know about the money. I know everything. For a long moment, she just stared. Then her shoulders sagged, and she sank onto the bottom step, head in her hands. How long have you known? Long enough. I stood, moving closer but keeping distance between us. Why? You're never here, she said, her voice breaking. Even when you're physically present, you're somewhere else. In your head, back in the war. I've been lonely for 3 years, Jack. 3 years of sleeping next to a ghost. The words hit harder than I expected because they carried truth. I had struggled with re-entry into civilian life. The nightmares, the hypervigilance, the inability to connect. I'd thought I was protecting her from my demons by keeping them locked away. Instead, I'd locked her out too. So you turn to a con artist who's using you for your money. The words came out harsher than intended. Her head snapped up. He loves me. He loves your bank account. He's in debt to Vincent Costa for $300,000. You're his exit strategy. I watch her face cycle through denial, confusion, and finally, painful realization. No, you're lying. You're just... I'm a lot of things, Rebecca, but I'm not a liar. I pulled out my phone, showed her the documentation, the loan agreements, the court documents, the surveillance photos of Trevor meeting with Costa's enforcers. She stared at the screen, tears streaming down her face. Oh my God. End it, I said quietly. Tonight. Tell him it's over, and we'll figure out what comes next for us. But that money you took needs to come back, and whatever he's planning stops now. She nodded, sobbing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to comfort her, but I couldn't. Not yet. The betrayal was too fresh, the wound too deep. What neither of us knew was that Trevor had been listening through Rebecca's phone, and he wasn't planning to let his solution walk away. The next evening, I was working in my garage workshop when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Not Rebecca, she'd called earlier, said she was staying with her sister to give us both space. Through the window, I saw the silver Audi. Trevor Hawthorne stepped out, straightening his expensive suit. He moved with the false confidence of a man who'd never faced real danger, never had his life on the line. I recognized that walk. I'd seen it on corporate executives visiting forward operating bases, tourists playing at danger. I continued sanding the cabinet I was refinishing, not looking up when he entered through the open garage door. Jack Morrison. His voice carried practiced authority, the tone of someone used to dominating conversations. That's me. I kept my eyes on my work, my movements casual. Control the encounter through indifference, a tactic that unnerved people more than aggression. We need to talk about Rebecca. Not much to discuss. She's my wife, you're nothing. Math is simple. I heard his footsteps move closer. See, I think you're the problem here. Rebecca deserves better than a washed-up soldier with PTSD who can't hold a normal conversation. Now I looked up, meeting his eyes. Washed-up soldier. That's creative. I set down the sandpaper, dusted off my hands. Let me guess. You've come to threaten me. Maybe tell me to back off, let you have her. Probably rehearsed this speech in your car. His jaw tightened. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. See, Trevor, I know about Costa. I know about the $300,000. I know you're not in love with my wife. You're in love with her trust fund. And I know that when desperate men get cornered, they do stupid things. His hand moved to his jacket, and I tracked it with the trained awareness of someone who'd lived in combat zones. When he pulled out the gun, A Glock 19, nice choice. I didn't flinch. I just kept smiling. Now you're going to leave, he said, voice shaking slightly despite his bravado. You're going to disappear, maybe have an accident, and Rebecca will be devastated, but eventually she'll turn to me for comfort. The grieving widow and her supportive boyfriend. It's poetic, really. I laughed. Actually laughed. You brought a gun to threaten a Navy SEAL. That's bold, Trevor. Stupid, but bold. His confidence wavered. You're retired. Retired doesn't mean defanged. I took a step forward. The gun came up, pointing at my chest, but his hand trembled. You know what I learned in 12 years of special operations? How to read people. Your safety's on, you're holding it too tight, and your fingers outside the trigger guard. You've never actually shot anyone, have you? Another step. I was now within arm's reach, inside his reaction curve. Stay back. The weapon shook worse now. Here's what's going to happen, I said conversationally, as if we were discussing the weather. You're going to lower that gun, leave my property, and never contact my wife again. You're going to solve your Costa problem yourself, sell a dealership, declare bankruptcy, whatever. But you're done using Rebecca. Or what? You'll kill me. He tried to sound tough, but his voice cracked. No. I moved faster than he could process. 12 years of close-quarters combat training condensed into 2 seconds. My left hand swept the gun aside while my right grabbed his wrist, twisting the weapon free with a technique I'd practiced 10,000 times. Before he could react, I dropped the magazine and cleared the chamber, the unfired round pinging on the concrete floor. I held the empty gun loosely at my side. I won't kill you because you're not worth the paperwork. But I will destroy you. Every fraudulent deal, every dirty connection, every lie you've ever told, I'll expose it all. Costa will learn you were planning to run. Your wife will learn everything. Those dealerships will be gone within a month. Trevor stumbled backward, his face pale. You can't. I absolutely can. I've toppled terrorist networks, Trevor. Your little criminal enterprise is amateur hour. I set his gun on the workbench, removed from his reach. Now get out. He ran. Actually ran to his car, nearly tripping over his expensive shoes. The Audi's tires squealed as he reversed too fast, clipping my mailbox before speeding away. I stood in the garage doorway, breathing slowly, bringing my heart rate back down. The adrenaline was familiar, almost comforting. But beneath it was something else, sadness. This wasn't how I'd imagined my marriage ending, with guns and threats in my garage. My phone buzzed. Rebecca, are you okay? Trevor just called me, screaming about you. He sounded insane. What happened? I typed back. We had a conversation. He won't bother you anymore. Jack, what did you do? What I was trained to do. Protected what's mine. I walked back into the house, the empty gun in my hand, and wondered if there was anything left of my marriage worth protecting, or if I'd been fighting for something already lost. The next 72 hours moved like a controlled demolition, precise, calculated, irreversible. Trevor made his first mistake by doubling down. Instead of cutting his losses, he went to Vincent Costa and told him I was the problem, that I was threatening to expose their arrangement. What Trevor didn't know was that Costa and I had history. Not friendly history, but the kind where mutual respect existed because we'd both seen real violence and understood its weight. Costa's call came at 2 a.m., his gravelly voice unmistakable. Morrison. Heard you had a visit from my client. I was already awake, watching surveillance footage on my laptop. Old habits. Your client pulled a gun on me in my garage. Seemed relevant. A long pause, then a laugh. That idiot. What did you do? Disarmed him. Sent him home. Didn't hurt him, though I probably should have. He told me you threatened him. Said you're going to expose our business arrangement. Another pause. Are you? I don't care about your business, Vincent. I care about the fact he's using my wife to pay off his debt to you. That stops now. You know I can't just let the debt disappear, Morrison. Business is business. I'm not asking you to. I'm telling you to collect from him another way. Seize his assets, take the dealerships, whatever. But Rebecca's money is off limits. I heard ice clinking in a glass on his end. I respect what you did in the service. We fought the same enemies, different uniforms. So I'll give you this one as professional courtesy. Trevor's cut off from using the girl. But he still owes me, and if he can't pay, that's his problem. Fair enough. Morrison. That boy's desperate now. Desperate men do stupid things. Watch yourself. The line went dead. He was right. Over the next 2 days, Trevor's desperation manifested in increasingly erratic behavior. He showed up at Rebecca's office, causing a scene that required security. He called her 93 times in one afternoon. He sent emails that oscillated between pleading love letters and vicious threats. Rebecca finally came home on the 3rd day, looking exhausted. I'd spent the time preparing, changing locks, installing additional security cameras, ensuring our home was as secure as any safe house I'd operated from overseas. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, coffee growing cold between us, the same way this whole nightmare had started. I contacted a lawyer, she said quietly. For us. For divorce proceedings. I'd expected it, but the words still hit hard. Is that what you want? I don't know what I want anymore. She looked up, her eyes red from crying. But I know we can't go back to what we were. Too much has broken. I failed you, I said, surprising myself with the admission. I came home from war but never really left it. You deserved a partner, and I gave you a roommate with nightmares. And I deserved to handle it like an adult instead of running to the first man who paid attention to me. Her voice cracked. God, Jack, what have we done? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with an alert from the security system. Someone had just cut through the fence line on the eastern perimeter of our property. My entire demeanor shifted, muscle memory taking over. Rebecca, go upstairs to the bedroom. Lock the door. There's a panic button by the bed. If you hear anything wrong, press it. Police will come. What's happening? Trevor's here. And he's not thinking straight. I moved to the gun safe, removing my SIG Sauer P226, checking the magazine with practiced efficiency. Go. Now. She ran upstairs. I heard the bedroom door lock, then turned my attention to the security monitors. Trevor was approaching from the rear, stumbling slightly, drunk or high, moving without caution or strategy. He had something in his hand, bulky and angular. I moved through the house like water, silent and purposeful, positioning myself in the mudroom with clear sightlines to the back door. The SIG felt comfortable in my grip, an extension of my will. The back door handle rattled, then glass shattered. Trevor had smashed through the window, reaching in to unlock the deadbolt. When he stumbled through, I saw what he was carrying, a canister of gasoline and a lighter. Trevor. My voice cut through his chaotic energy. Stop. He spun, eyes wild, face flushed. He'd definitely been drinking. You ruined everything. Everything. Costa's going to kill me. Patricia filed for divorce. The banks are calling in my loans. This is all your fault. Put down the gas, Trevor. This doesn't end the way you think. Oh, it ends. He flicked the lighter, flame dancing. If I can't have her, nobody can. We'll all burn together. He was serious. I saw it in his eyes, the total abandonment of self-preservation, the same look I'd seen in suicide bombers in Ramadi. He'd crossed into territory where reason no longer mattered. Last chance, I said, raising the issue, put it down. Instead, he tipped the canister, gasoline splashing across the mudroom floor, the fumes immediate and overwhelming. I didn't have a choice anymore. I squeezed the trigger. The shot was perfectly placed, center mass, exactly as trained, but angled to minimize lethality. The bullet caught Trevor's shoulder, spinning him away from the gas canister. He dropped everything, the lighter skittering across the floor, flame extinguishing against the tile. He collapsed, screaming, clutching his wound. I was already moving, kicking the gas canister outside, opening windows to ventilate the fumes, then returning to Trevor. I'd hit exactly where I intended, through the shoulder muscle, no arterial damage. He'd survive. Stay down, I commanded, my voice carrying the authority of 1,000 combat situations. I applied pressure to his wound with a kitchen towel, using my knee to keep him pinned. Rebecca, call 911. I heard her on the phone upstairs, her voice shaking but functional. Trevor was crying now, the pain and reality crashing through whatever drugs or alcohol had fueled his insanity. You shot me. You actually shot me. You were going to burn my house down with my wife inside. I showed remarkable restraint. I maintained pressure on his shoulder. It's over, Trevor. All of it. Police arrived within 6 minutes. I'd timed it. Then paramedics. The next hours became a blur of statements, evidence collection, Rebecca's tearful account from upstairs. The security footage told the story clearly. An intruder breaking in with gasoline and a lighter, threatening deadly arson, me responding with appropriate force after verbal warnings. The detective in charge, Maria Rodriguez, was professional but curious. Former SEAL. Yes, Hell of a shot. Quarter inch to the left, you'd have hit the subclavian artery. I know my anatomy. She stuttered me. This goes to review, but off the record? Clean shoot. Guy broke into your home armed with accelerant and flame. You're lucky you were trained well enough to wound instead of kill. Luck had nothing to do with it, detective. Trevor was charged with attempted arson, breaking and entering, terroristic threats. The investigation expanded to include his fraud at the dealerships, his association with Costa. He'd be away for years. Costa kept his word. No retaliation, no further contact. Professional courtesy maintained. Rebecca and I spent 3 weeks in limbo, living in the same house but separate lives while repairs were made to the mudroom. We tried couples therapy, but some broken things don't mend cleanly. 6 months later, we finalized the divorce. Amicable, all things considered. She kept the house. I took the memories and lessons. A year after that, I was running a security consulting firm, teaching combat tactics to law enforcement and executive protection teams. The work felt right, using my skills to prepare others, to prevent the kind of chaos that had nearly destroyed my life. I was demonstrating close-quarters disarmament to a class when my phone buzzed with a message from Rebecca. Trevor was released on parole yesterday. Thought you should know. He's required to stay 500 feet from both of us. Also, I'm engaged. His name is David. He's a teacher. Normal. Kind. Hope you're doing well. I smiled, genuinely happy for her. She deserved normal. Deserved kind. That evening, I sat on the deck of my new place, a small cabin 40 minutes from the city, backing onto protected forest. The solitude felt right. I'd spent years surrounded by noise, combat, chaos, the disintegration of my marriage. The quiet was healing. My phone rang. Unknown number. Morrison, I answered. Mr. Morrison. This is Captain Jennifer Walsh, Naval Special Warfare Command. We have a situation that requires your particular expertise. Contract work, short-term, overseas. Interested? I looked out at the darkening trees, felt the familiar pull of purpose and danger. Tell me more. Some men were built for quiet domesticity, for suburban peace and predictable days. Others carried the war inside them like a second heartbeat, always ready, always watching. I tried to bury that part of myself, thinking I could be someone else for Rebecca, for a normal life. Trevor Hawthorne had pulled a gun on me expecting fear, expecting the ordinary man he thought he saw. Instead, he'd found what I really was, what I'd always been. Not a ghost. Not washed up. Not broken. A weapon that learned to live among civilians but never stopped being exactly what I was forged to be. I took the contract. Some purposes you don't walk away from. You just learn to aim them better. The end.